here we are. The Mona Library Health and Wellness Committee invites you and welcomes you to this webinar, Navigating Through Financial Crisis. There is still hope. A special welcome to our presenters, Ms. Clary from JN Bank, Mr. Morgan and Mr. Blake from Sagicor, and to our campus librarian, Dr. Carr, for her continued support in LHEWco's initiatives. Welcome to you all. I want us to think about the last part of the theme for a while. There is still hope. A really unusual name for a webinar, I believe, but yet so profound. For if you are like me, you have utility bills, mortgage, car loans, and maybe children to feed. There is still hope. Reassures me that maybe, just maybe, with the right information, I might be able to survive this crisis. One year ago, Jamaica had its first COVID-19 case. And today, there are more than 35,800 cases and more than 530 deaths. And so I invite us to 30 seconds of silence to honor those who have lost the fight against this deadly virus. Beginning now. Okay, thank you very much. There is a saying that money can't buy love nor happiness. But the same is also true that without money, our lives can be frustrating and limited. For basically everything we do requires the involvement of money, especially during this pandemic. So we have three experts that will be sharing with us today on how to navigate through financial crises. But just before we hear from our presenters, I would like, in our usual and customary way to start our webinars, invite Mrs. Lawson to lead us in prayers. And after, we'll hear from our campus librarian, Dr. Paulette Carr, who will bring us greetings. And then we'll have our first speaker, Ms. Clary from JN Bank. But let me leave you with a quote from Mary C. Cole, and I quote, "Although I was not ashamed of poverty, beginning life in autumn, I mean late in the summer of life, is an uphill work." Mary C. Cole was nearly 50 when she had to restart her life, but she believed there was still hope. Having lost everything after the Kremlin War, She believed there is still hope. And that is what I want us to remember as we go forward through this webinar. There is always hope. And so I'll turn over now to Mrs. Lawson, who will lead us in prayer.
Good morning, everyone. Let us pray. O glorious God, we praise your name. We lay our crowns and we worship you. We thank you for today, God. It is a day that you have made, and we just want to say thank you. We thank you, Father, because you are a faithful God. You are altogether lovely, altogether worthy. Lord, as we come, we pray for guidance. As, Lord, the presenters, Lord, will speak to us, as they will share with us, Lord, we ask that you will clearly show us how to go through in this time. Father, we pray that you will give us, oh God, the desires to find ways, God, in order to move through, Lord. I pray in the name of Jesus, Lord, that as we continue to work together and as we continue to encourage each other, that your love will be around us. Father, the truth is, in you there is hope. Because as the word told us that if in this life we only have hope, we will be men most miserable. But I'm glad that you are our hope and that we still continue to trust you. I pray, Father, that you will just bless this webinar and bless us, Father, as we listen. And God, I pray that the points that will be given to us, Lord, that we will be restored even at the end. We want to thank you for Christ's sake. Amen.
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 Dr. Carr.
Thank you so much. Just want to say a warm welcome and good morning to everybody. And welcome to another webinar by the Health and Wellness team of the LHEWco Library. It's good to see our staff members, and I am seeing a few visitors as well to this webinar. I shared with the team in my office that the nature of this, we should have shared it for the entire campus, because I think that persons are really going through difficult times now that they will need this kind of information. I am extremely grateful to the Health and Wellness team led by Mr. Heron. Especially during this pandemic, you know, they have brought a number of webinars on various aspects. We have addressed psychological aspects of how we deal with. We have looked at physical, because we have looked at really physical health and emotional health. I think we've really been supported and anchored by the Health and Wellness team, and I really want to, as we would say in the library, to big them up. This time around, we are looking at our financial help, and I have to say that some weeks ago I was in a session, and it was really for women, but different women were sharing on different aspects of how the pandemic had affected their lives. And we had somebody talking about how to deal with our finances. One of the things the woman said, and because she was talking to women, you know, she said, you know, we don't have to spend so much money on shoes anymore. We can say we're not going to many places, so we can save that money, because you know how we love shoes, right? But it drove home to me that this was one aspect that we really needed to look at, because we really need to find ways of managing, and as Mr. Heron says, to find hope in this time. Because if we're not careful, because we are feeling like low, and some people are shut away and shut in, we will make up that feeling in spending sometimes that we don't have, maybe spending on nicer food, different foods, and so I think this is really yeah, because you know, we want to feel comfortable at home. So I thought it was it's very important that we have this session, because although at UWI we have not laid off staff, people are still wrestling with different challenges during this time. Mr. Heron says some people, they have had to spend more money because their children are at home. They have to buy equipment, they have to buy resources, they have to spend more money on food. When you used to give them a little bit of money for lunch, now you have to make sure it's like around the clock they need food. But I think also for us in the library, and it came home to me very, very vividly a few weeks ago, that some of our staff would have had different schedules where they would be earning a little bit more money. They would have a late night, or they would work on a Saturday and they would have this kind of allowance coming in. And now that's no more, because we have changed our hours. And I think a lot of persons are silently not dealing with the changes financially. And so I think this is very, very useful. So I'm glad that we are having this. And I really, really want to say thanks to our presenters for agreeing to share, Miss Clary and Mr. Blake and Mr. Leighton Morgan. Really, we are very, very grateful that you have taken the time. And as Mrs. Lawson prayed, that I'm hoping that out of the presentations, we will really have useful information, and we will make a note of it, and that it will affect our lives. So welcome, welcome, welcome to you all. I understand, Mr. Heron, that I should be just present first. Ms. Clary, is that so? Just to
That's correct, Ms. Clary and Mr. Morgan, because Mr. Blake. Mr.
Yes.
Morgan, I will talk a little about.
Okay, all right. So all right, so let me just introduce to you our first presenter. Well, I'll introduce two presenters. Miss Nikkisha Clary, who is assistant manager at JN. She was appointed assistant manager of mobile banking at JN in 2019, with responsibility for leading and directing a regional mobile sales team tasked with achieving excellent customer satisfaction, high sales production, sales growth, and profitability. In this position, Ms. Clary also conducts sales meetings. She coaches and trains and mentors staff, as well as implement policies and procedures to increase sales. So we really want somebody like that, right? Prior to joining JN, Ms. Clary was sales manager at Access Financial, where she worked to develop, implement, and monitor sales strategies to meet the company's sales target. And she was also with Scotia Group for a number of years. She didn't go to the leading institution, but we don't hold it against her. She has an MBA and a BA in business admin from the University of Technology, Jamaica, but we still welcome her and we love her the same way. Also, just to read for you, because should I just go straight ahead and read Mr. Blake?
Mr. Blake, yes.
Yes, okay. So Mr. Mark Blake is a financial advisor, but guess what? He's also a professional commercial pilot. Interesting. He is certified by the Financial Services Commission as a financial advisor, and he's also a certified securities dealer with Sagicor Life Jamaica. I know about this prestigious $1 Million Roundtable Club. He has qualified for this, which means that he is making big money. So can we come to you for some something to help with, or we want to look at, I think, Mr. Heron, it is good that you have invited these money people, because guess what? We are looking in the library. So yes, they're going to be talking to us about our own financial management of our resources. But I think they are good contacts for us to set up links for the library, because you realize we could do with funding in so many areas. So, yeah, I'm glad for these contacts. So, Mr. Blake went abroad. He went to Kennesaw State University in Georgia, and he acquired a bachelor's in finance and economics. We don't hold it against you anyway, yes. And importantly though, he's a digital entrepreneur who has educated, I like this, he has educated and mentored well over 100 families on how to invest in the digital age through stocks, foreign exchange, cryptocurrencies, and I see that Jamaica is into, well, not so much crypto, but another kind of digital currency, and e-commerce. And he is also the founder of several global businesses. His lifelong goal, and I like this, I have it as a tick on my, is to educate, empower, and enrich people all over the world to live a life of financial freedom and independence. No, I think that is the goal for all of us. So I mean, with everybody, with Ms. Clary, with her expertise, and Mr. Blake, and of course, Mr. Morgan is the big knit. So, I'm not even introducing him, he's going to talk about his wealth management skills. And so Mr. Blake wants us to know that he is a husband of 12 years to his beautiful wife and a father of 3. So welcome and thank you all for coming to share with us today. All right, Mr. Heron, over to you. Or is it, we're going to hear?
Thank you, Dr. Kai. And we let me just add to that, Dr. Kai, that these are not just any and any persons. These are the elite of the elite.
I know.
They are the experts. These are the persons that you run to when there's no hope, and they will give you hope. They will give you hope, right? Yes. So if you look now at Miss Clary, and she will be presenting to us under the topic, prioritizing your financial health during a pandemic. How thought-provoking is that? I really am looking forward to your presentation, Ms. Clary, because I have too many things on my head, too many things on my mind. And oftentimes I'm wondering, should I feed myself or go pay bills? So I am going to turn over to you now, Ms. Clary, and hope that you will point me in the right direction so that I can not only survive, but start living. Over to you, Ms. Clary. Welcome.
Thank you. All right, let me just share my screen to bring up my presentation. All right. Okay. Fellow presenters, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is certainly a pleasure to be participating in this webinar on behalf of JN Bank. I must commend the University of the West Indies, Mona Library, and the Mona Library Health and Wellness Committee for staging this very important event, which I anticipate will provide vital financial advice to all participants. Your theme, Navigating Through Financial Crisis, There is Always Hope, is quite heartening. This is a message that JN Bank can wholeheartedly endorse, because the message of hope is so important for our survival, especially in these challenging times. And Mr. Aaron would have been speaking about hope. It must be noted that while the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic have been crippling and far-reaching for many individuals, families, and organizations, it has also provided positive opportunities for growth for many persons. We must take full grasp of these opportunities with both hands, as they will not only help us to cope, but also to put us in a much better position post-pandemic. My presentation today, therefore, will look at how we can prioritize our financial health in the middle of a pandemic. The hope is that it will not only provide us with a few tips on how to improve the management of our finances, but also to put you on a path to achieving your financial goals. Prioritizing your financial health in a pandemic. Many Jamaicans are under financial pressure at this time, when it's more important than ever to think about saving money and planning for a stronger post-pandemic recovery. But even amid such great uncertainty, there are still ways to save, get control of your debts, and boost your financial well-being. While individuals and businesses may feel unsettled during this unprecedented economic blow, that is even more the reason not to neglect one's financial health. As difficult as this time is for so many people, it is also an opportunity to recognize in this pandemic that we really value. Now is a great time to get your finances in order. And in getting your finances in order, we're going to be intentional about doing that. So the first step to being intentional is about budgeting and saving. Spending money on non-essential is easy, even if you're committed to a well laid out spending plan. That's why it's important to deliberate about budgeting. You're going to put things down on paper. Don't just think of it mentally, but you're going to make note of what you spend. Now, when you're creating your budget, you're going to gather into one place all your electronic, your paper bills, your receipts, your pay stubs, your bank statements, and any other record of income or expense for at least a month. Now we're going to create a budget worksheet. We're going to use a template from Google Sheets or an Excel spreadsheet or even simple paper and pen. We're going to list all our income from taxes, and then we're going to list all our expenses, for example, our rent or mortgage payments, or the credit card payments, loan payments, grocery receipts, and your utility bills. After doing that, you will add up each set of figures and subtract the expense total from the income total to get a general picture of your health, financial health. Now we're going to carefully assess your expenses, and we're going to categorize them in 3 different categories, which are fixed, variable, and discretionary expenses. So fixed expenses would be like your rent, which remain the same month over month, and thus often contribute the basis of your budget. Your variable expenses, those are like your utility bills that can typically be lowered based on your behavioral pattern. For example, you may turn off the lights as you leave a room. And last but not least, our discretionary expenses consist of wants rather than needs and provide the most opportunities for saving. Now we're going to have our saving habits in place. This takes me to the next step, which is saving, which is very critical, especially in these times. One of the easiest ways to save is to spend less. And that's pretty straightforward, right? Can you agree with me? Hello?
Somewhat, not
somewhat.
sure.
Okay. I'm sure after this you will. But I'm sure most of us would say our income is already stretched as it is, and there isn't much room for cutting back. But I'm here to tell you that there is always room to cut back on spending, especially in a pandemic. Now is the time to go through your finances carefully to find all the areas of unnecessary spending and assess your needs versus your wants. Here are a few tips on how we can make saving a habit. So first tip, you're going to pay yourself first. So you're going to save at least 10% of your salary. So you're going to think of your savings as another bill. So when your electric bill becomes due each month, you make sure you pay it, correct? Hello?
Yeah, yes, that's right.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So we're going to treat the savings just like your electric bill.
Yeah.
So their savings is no different from a bill. So if your goal is to save $10,000 a month, then you think of your savings as a goal of a $10,000 bill that needs to be paid each month. If you think about savings in terms of a bill that needs to be paid, you are more than likely to put that money aside and build up your emergency fund. Our second tip is making saving automatic. And in doing that, I'm going to encourage you to open a JN Bank savings account with a direct deposit each month. So this leads me to saving automatic, making it automatic. And that's just thinking about your monthly saving as a bill. But you need to create an automatic savings plan that will routinely deposit the money into your savings account even before you have a chance to spend it. And this can be done through your employer's direct deposit or via a recurring transfer with your bank, and that's with JN Bank. This way, you won't even miss the money going into your savings account on a monthly basis, yet your savings will begin to grow over time. Our next saving habit, we're going to learn to spend less than you earn. So this is the holy grail of personal finance. You have to spend less money than you earn, and there's no way around that. It's all about your cash flow. So if you earn 100,000 and you spend 110,000, you are now at a 10,000 deficit. And to cover that extra 10,000 spent, you might have used a credit card. Now, in doing that, unfortunately, the money that you borrow there's an interest cost attached to that, which means you would be more than $10,000 in debt. And if you continue this process on a regular basis with large dollar amounts, you can get into tens of thousands of dollars of debt. And we don't want that right now, especially in these times. So it therefore means you need to be mindful about your spending. And this is where your budget comes into play. And the last tip is save with a goal in mind. Another key is to save with a goal in mind at all times, and we will have different goals. For example, you may want to purchase your home, build on your emergency funds, for retirement, maybe want to further your education. Those are some main goals that we would normally take on. So you can also put a timeline on achieving your goals, which gives you something to look forward to and make it more tangible. Now, when you have saved enough money for your down payment on a home, which is usually 5% of the purchase price, you can visit us at JN Bank for a mortgage to purchase your dream property. At Jamaica National, for 147 years, we have been making home ownership a reality for thousands of Jamaicans, and we continue to innovate to make this process easier and more seamless for you. I will now take you through our mortgage options that we have. So under our Design Your Mortgage options, we have expanded the means by which persons can acquire a mortgage to purchase a home. Therefore, based on your preference, you can design or you can select your own mortgage formula to match your needs or to match your cash flow and objectives. Whether you're a young professional just starting out in your career or a commercial investor who is able to make lump sum payments. And under our Design Your Mortgage, we have different options. and I will list them and give you a brief description of each. So we have our graduated mortgage, we have our fixed rate mortgage, or extended mortgage. There's also the balloon payment mortgage, the adjustable rate mortgage, the variable rate mortgage, and our payment holiday mortgage option. Now, just briefly on each. So our graduated mortgage is specially designed for young persons entering the workforce, that you may start with a monthly payment and increase it over time. So at least when you start out with a minimum income, maybe at the lower level of the scale, and then you gradually go up, then you can increase your payments over time. As it relates to fixed rate, that is to protect you from fluctuations in the market. With our extended mortgage, this offers an extended term on the life of the mortgage. And with our balloon payment option, this is designed for persons who buy and sell properties, as it allows them to make lump sum payments without facing a penalty. And then we have the adjustable rate mortgage, which is a normal package that we offer at JN Bank, and I mean commercial banks overall. There is also the variable rate mortgage, so that you can take full advantage of reducing the market rates. And last but not least, our payment holiday option, which allows you a moratorium after your mortgage has been disbursed, so that you can get a chance to put your affairs back together. Because you have different costs when you're doing your mortgage, and then you'll just need a breather. So we offer that via our payment holiday option. Now, our mortgage process, pretty simple, and I'll just take you through it. So now, how does the mortgage process work? My first advice to you is to save as much as you can. You need cash to begin the transaction, and you need cash to close by way of your deposits and your closing fees. Now, for us to start the mortgage process, you need to be pre-approved, and this is essential to determine your budget and price range that is suitable based on your income-debt ratio. Now, our pre-approval process is very simple, it's not tedious, and it typically takes about 48 hours. Some of the major documents required for pre-approval would be your income documentation, which will include your job letter, your last 3 months pay slips, your ID, your TRN, and of course, we're going to look at other liabilities that you may have, such as your loan payments, your credit card payments, hire purchase payments, and we also pull a credit report because we want to look at how you have been managing existing credit facilities that you may have, or maybe previous facilities within the last 2 years. So, and our pre-approval now, it is actually valid for 3 months. So you now getting that pre-approval, you have an idea to say, well, based on my income, I am pre-approved for a mortgage of say 25 million. So you know exactly where you can go and shop. Because you don't want to go and look on a property for a 50 million and you can't afford it. So that is how critical the pre-approval is in helping you to go through the mortgage process. Now, you would have gotten pre-approved now when you've identified the property, you've paid your deposit, and you're ready to start the mortgage process. There are a few documents that will be required in order to move on in the process. So you would provide us with your valuation report, surveyor's identification report, copy of title from seller, proof of payment of taxes from the seller. You're going to sign your sales agreement and proof of your deposit. Once all those are submitted to us, then we would provide your application to our credit risk management unit for review to see if you were approved for this mortgage. And we now move to other products that we here at JN offer. So we offer other loan products along with other services. And these loan products and services can aid in your efforts to manage your finances and build wealth. Among these products, we do unsecured loans, auto loans, we offer line of credits, and we offer credit cards as well. We also offer a variety of checking accounts to manage your personal and business payments. So you can choose between an everyday checking account or a smart checking or a go green checking account. We also offer long-term and short-term savings accounts. And as I had mentioned before, our credit card, we do offer a JN Bank Visa credit card, which is one of the lowest interest rates on the market just now. So ladies and gentlemen, JN Bank is prepared and positioned to assist you on your journey towards financial success. We can offer you the right products and provide you with quality services to support your efforts to create wealth for you and your family. Please feel free to contact me if you need further information about any of our products and services. My office location is 10 to 12 Grenada Crescent. I can be contacted via telephone at 876-551-8114. And my email address is nclary@jnbank.com. And we can also be reached via the World Wide Web, jnbank.com. Let us help you find a way today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Clary.
You're welcome, Mr. Heron.
Much appreciated. But let me see, because I see that Jamaica National has been pushing a lot of products. But before I continue, let me just invite persons that we are now in the Q&A, question and answers section. And so I'll invite persons to unmute or use the chat to ask questions and to raise their comment. Because as I said before, now we are sure that we have the experts here to answer all your financial questions. So let us take advantage of that. All right, there's one comment. Can you say a bit about the names of the long and short-term savings account?
So we have fixed deposit accounts, which can be done in our branches, as well as we have our fund manager. That's another group arm in the JN group that will provide for longer term investments.
Okay. And tell me again, because Dr. Clary mentioned earlier, right, regarding us being fortunate here at the university who have not yet who has not had any layoff. But I have colleagues and I have friends who have gotten laid off, and then they are now in a financial problem. Can you say to us, advise us as to how much should we set aside should we go down that road? How much would be, how much or what can we do in order to cushion that blow when it comes, if it comes?
Well, suggestion is for us to aim to save at least 10% of our income on a monthly basis. And we can do that, as I had said in my presentation, via our automatic savings plan. So you can ask your employer to, you will set up an account with us here at JN Bank, and you ask your employer to send over that portion to your account each month. Not only that, if it is that you have credit facilities and you happen to be in that position as well, then you're going to reach out to your banker seeking assistance. And even during this whole pandemic, a number of commercial banks have put programs in place to assist their customers who fall into any situation where they may not be able to make their payment. So here at JN Bank, we have what we call our COVID Assist program, where we try and assist our customers as best as possible, whether we're going to put in place maybe a moratorium. It depends. So we look at each person's situation. So there are things in place to assist you with that. But in terms of saving to cushion, and it's important, as we said, save. So I'll aim for at least 10%.
Okay. So you made mention about paying yourself first. right? So to speak.
Right.
But I have been making some jottings as you speak, just roughly off the top of my head, some of my expenses. And when I do pay myself first, that 10% or maybe 8%, I'm seeing that there will be a chop in one of my other expenses that might be automatically disconnected, or will have to pay more money if I do not meet that deadline for payment. I'm sorry. I know that if I am not healthy, I won't be able to pay my outstanding debt. But at the same time, is it really practical to pay yourself first? When you compare all the expenses that you have.
Yes, it can happen. And Paulette would have made mention of it before in terms of the ladies, that even during this time, we have to cut back. And I would have mentioned it that you have to look at your needs versus your wants. So we have to find means and ways, do some behavioral changes. So if you used to maybe go to the hairdresser every week, you may have to cut down and go every 2 weeks. So you'll be putting that towards your savings. So there are means and ways, but you just have to analyze your situation. And again, look at your needs versus your wants.
Okay. I see Dr. Carr has her hand up. Go ahead, Dr. Carr.
I wanted to ask Ms. Clary, during this time, because I think a lot of persons are like, there is no way for me, I don't see how I would be able to buy a property during this time. Would you recommend making those kinds of drastic financial moves at this time? And I know you talked about the different ways that one could get a mortgage. How would you encourage somebody who doesn't have a home as yet and really want to? Is it possible? Is it manageable? Can it happen now?
Yes, it can. It might seem daunting, but it has been, and we have seen an increase in persons trying to acquire real estate. And as again, I said, it goes back to the first move is saving. And yes, I understand that, yeah, we're in a challenging time, but from last year to now, you'd have seen how things are going. And I'm sure you'd have made some adjustments to say, wow, this thing just come and hit us. So there must be a little savings that you'd have been putting aside. And we here at JN, we try to find a way to help our customers. So it is indeed possible to still make these goals achievable.
Interesting.
Yeah,
right,
I can talk from experience because maybe over 30 years ago, it was only JN that kind of met me where I was.
Okay, thank you.
That graduated plan that you talk about, it worked at the time. Yes. So
okay.
I know that.
I'm happy.
It can happen. It's just that people are scared about making decisions now because they don't know, But I think you rightly said, Jane is there to help them.
Yeah, it can happen. We just need to make contact with us and we'll guide you through the process.
Okay. I'm seeing that there is another hand up. You can go ahead, Kimberly.
Okay, thank you. Firstly, I'm just taking the time to commend the library. I am a student myself, and I am pleased with the forum hosted now and the wealth of information being shared. I just have a quick question, maybe for Ms. Clary. Do you anticipate that possibly there is much anxiety from a member perspective because maybe more knowledge is required on the difference between investment and savings? Just asking because I saw this on the slide and I thought it would be helpful to understand or to explain how both could be relevant in such a time as this.
Well, your savings is really your, well, you can look at savings in two ways, maybe short-term, long-term, and we have different savings plans. So you'd have your savings for your maybe day-to-day expenses, but in terms of your goals, for example, you want to maybe further your education or for home purchase, then we have different savings options where we can put aside for that. And again, if you're for investment purposes, where you can earn a higher interest rate, then we have our JN fund managers who can help you with that. So it depends on what your need is.
Okay, so it all ties down to prioritizing.
Prioritizing, exactly.
All right, no problem. Thank you very much, Ms. Clary, and I hope that you'll stick around so that should other questions arrive, and you'll be able to answer it after our next two presenters.
Sure, most definitely. And again, I thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right. So at this moment, we're going to have, let me say Mr. Sagicor, because both Mr. Blake and Mr. Morgan are both from Sagicor, and I do believe that they may be sharing together, right? So I am going to ask Mr. Blake to maneuver us through this pandemic. And Mr. Morgan is labeled as a very simple man, right? As you can see that he did not send us a bio because he believed himself to be a very simple man who just want to educate persons. And that is exactly what we need, because sometimes we think that we can have money and then that will solve our problem. But I believe that having the right information can be all that we need into making a good and sensible decision. So I will turn over now to Mr. Sagicor, Mr. Blake, and Mr. Morgan. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, and good morning to the Mona Library, to this health and wellness session. Indeed, a great pleasure. And while I sat down and I listened to Nikkisha is somebody I know quite some time. And so with Nikkisha, when I saw you, we were going to be sharing the same space. We have been coming from far, and so it's a delight to be able to sit with you or to share with you on the same platform. And well done, good presentation. Great.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Indeed. All right, and so I take the opportunity to also thank Mr. Tamar Heron for inviting us. We call ourselves, Mark and I, the Twin Tower presenters, because we have been doing these presentations quite some time, around the Art Academy, a few companies, I can't even remember them now, to be honest, but we have been doing this, and we find it a pleasure to be able to share. And I'll just quickly say to my audience that why I describe myself as a simple man, because I know how far I'm coming from. I am coming from the days when I used to sell Star and Gleaner in Manor Park. Starry, Gleaner, when all my friends had to go and go to extra classes, I had to leave school with my bag and run them to Manor Park to get my 25 star to sell to go to school the next day. And so to find myself in a position where I can sell, I can introduce or speak on financial advice, it is just a dream. I really did not know when I got here, but we give thanks. Yes, I heard Mr. Heron speaking earlier about hope, and hope is what we want to speak about. Hope is what we want to enlarge as we go today. Why? Because when I grew up in the Manor Park area, right? I'm not from Manor Park, but I grew up in the Manor Park area, selling Star, working in the supermarkets, trying to find my footing as a young man. But there was always a saying in that area: you live in hope and die in Constant Spring. And so When I heard Mr. Heron speaking about hope, you know, what else that we'd want to be promoting today but hope, especially in a crisis like this. But we as financial advisors really don't want to look at it as a crisis. We really want to look at it as an opportunity. Because as my good friend always say, you know, we don't look at the negative. We always try to look at the positive side of things, right? And as financial advisors, we must take positiveness to our clients, not doom and gloom. So as far as we are concerned, it is not so much of a crisis. And it is more of a way we can set our houses in order for us to have a better outlook at it. So I take a great pleasure now to introduce Mark Blake, or to welcome Mark Blake to the stage. Mark Blake.
Sir Morgan, man, every time I have the pleasure of gracing the stage, so to speak, today we're on Zoom with the audience, I'm always just grateful to be in your presence. It's the presence of greatness, actually. I want to say good afternoon to each and every person on the call. And, you know, our job here is simple today. About 7 years ago, I started to give advice to individuals alongside Leighton Morgan. So Leighton, we would have been sharing the stage for quite a number of years now, probably about
from 2016.
Yeah, exactly. And I have been able to learn a lot from Mr. Morgan. He has been in the industry for probably longer than I've been living, right? And
19 years.
And so he has a wealth of knowledge and experience that he brings to the table. And, you know, I've been very blessed to sit at his feet and learn a whole lot about how we can transform our money. And so this morning, one of the things that I want to really highlight is, like Leighton Morgan just spoke about, Mr. Heron spoke about hope. We don't want to focus on the money. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not going to be your ordinary presentation today. We are not going to be talking about money today. Now, I agree that money can't buy love or happiness, like Mr. Heron said earlier, but it ranks right up there next to oxygen. We need it. It determines where you live. It determines what you eat. It determines where your children go to school. It determines a lot of things. And you know what? Mostly it determines your level of stress. And I want to highlight today that this is not going to be your ordinary conversation about money. Yes, we are licensed financial advisors. We are certified members of the Jamaica Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors. And what we really do is we provide financial planning security for our clients, for the needs of our clients. But today, we're going to be focusing on something totally different. We're going to be focusing on navigating through the financial crisis. And you guys can see my daughter in the background. I am at home right now, enjoying the luxuries of being at home. You want to say hello? You want to say hello? Wave in the background? Huh? All right, so she's in homeschool, right? I love her to death. So you guys would have gotten a good grasp from Miss Clary as to how to do budgeting and things of that nature, and you know, saving, spending. I mean, that's all very important. But we're going to be navigating through a financial crisis, and so as we introduce this topic, I want to find out from you who here actually understands what a financial crisis is. If you do, drop a 111 in the chat. If you do, drop a 111 in the chat if you understand just what a financial crisis is. Because we're going to talk about it, all right? Leighton Morgan, you want to dive into this?
Yes.
What is a financial crisis?
And so, Mark, you know, from time to time, we would, from talking to my clients, I hear, boy, you know, there's too much month at the end of the money. they're living from paycheck to paycheck. And so therefore, there's always going to be, from even before the pandemic, there's a financial crisis. We understand from the financial point of view that a financial crisis is in essence where you have your money placed in Jamaica National Bank, and of course there's reduction in interest rates and stuff like those. But we want to understand a financial crisis from a mindset change, a mindset which of course is our greatest asset. So if we are going to continue down that road of thinking that it is a crisis, then believe me, we are going to be continuing down the slippery slope, wondering. And I heard Mr. Heron asking the question. I was doing a presentation last night, and somebody asked me the same question about the budgeting and also about the bills that you pay. And so, Mr. Heron, while I'll address it later, we have to understand how. Because the reality of it is, Mr. Heron, is that if you're going to be continuing earning pretty much the same thing every year, might be 10% more or 10% or 15 or 20, all depends on the capacity you fall in. But if you don't change that mindset, right, look at your budget and make it and see it as important to making that change, then, because the money won't stretch, but you will have to stretch your mind in order to make sure that you can afford your expenses.
So, as we dive into the shift in mindset, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And so there are key essential questions.
Mark, stop for a second, because I want our audience to digest that. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. I want to digest that for a quick second before we roll on, because it's a fact. The way you look at the outlook on the outside is different once you come on the inside. And once you start looking at your expenses in a different way, you are going to start making those preparations long before it really starts happening, Mr. Heron.
Yes, sir.
Long before. And so therefore, powerful, Mark, when you change the outlook of things, things really do change. Mark.
And so my heart really goes out to those families out there who are being affected by the COVID-19 pandemic right now. A lot of lives have been lost. A lot of lives have changed because of it. But what I can say to you is, when things go wrong, you don't have to go wrong with it. When things go wrong, you don't have to go wrong with it. So here are 3 essential questions I usually ask. And ladies and gentlemen, if you do not already have a notepad, if you don't already have a pen or a pencil, please do get one and get ready to take some notes, because the faintest ink is better than the sharpest mind. Number 1, how does self-image impact my life? I'm going to tell you that the reason why we are suffering is not because of a lack of money. Ladies and gentlemen, the reason why we're suffering is because of a lack of self-image. A lot of times, let me ask you this, Leighton, do you think that the money that you get paid is all that Sagicor pays?
Yes. No.
Do you think that the CEO or the CFO gets paid more than you? Don't answer that question. All right. Now listen. Here's the stop. Now listen. The money that you get is in direct correlation with your personal development. What do I mean by that?
Absolutely.
I mean, what is the value that you're bringing to the marketplace? Because that's how you're going to be paid. Money is simply a byproduct of the services that you provide to the marketplace. So if it is, ladies and gentlemen, that you want to make more money, then it means that you have to become more valuable. So you have to ask yourself a question. How do you view yourself right now? What's your self-image? right now of yourself? How is your self-image formed? And then thirdly, how do we change our self-image? I want you to follow me with this. Your thoughts become feelings. Your feelings becomes your actions, right? Now, thoughts are in your subconscious mind, and your feelings are in your conscious mind. Actions are displayed through your body. So first it's a thought, Mr. Heron. Then it becomes a feeling. And then from that feeling, it then becomes an action. Now, here's why this is important in a pandemic, in a crisis, and more so in a financial crisis. The attitude of mind. It is our attitude at the beginning of a task above anything else that will affect its successful outcome. So we must learn how to change our attitude about our relationships that we're in so it can get better. We have to change our attitude about our health so that it can get better. And then we have to change how we look at our finances so that it can become better, right? So there has to be a shift in the mindset. And that shift in mindset is really a paradigm shift. What is a paradigm? Well, a paradigm is a mental program that has almost exclusive control over our habitual behavior. And almost all of our behavior is habitual. And you asked the question earlier. You know, Miss Clary touched on it earlier as well. It becomes a habit when you're saving. And guess what? You're saving without even looking at it. So that's even a change in paradigm because you're used to getting your money. And when you get your money, you now have to decide what you have to do with your money, which is to then spend it. And guess what, Mr. Heron? When you spend your money, when you spend your money, you take the SP and you take off the S and the P, what do you get? You get end, ladies and gentlemen. When you spend your money, you literally end your money. So we have to now figure out how do we have a paradigm shift? How do we stop looking at things that way? You know, maybe you have the same mother as I do, but I remember my mother saying to me, Mark, money doesn't grow on what? Trees.
Tree.
Right? I used to hear my mom say, Mark, birds of a feather flock together, right? So these are paradigms that were put in us from we were early, from we were just born. We're hearing these things. Now, are we hearing words of wealth? Are we hearing words of abundance? Are we hearing that we can afford anything we desire? Are we hearing these things that are going to create the thoughts in our mind that is going to create a certain feeling and emotion that is going to create a specific action? We're not necessarily hearing that. So our self-image is formed even before we have the ability to think. Now think about that. I want you to I want you to really understand what I'm saying here. You have sensory factors, hearing, smelling, tasting, feeling, all of these things, right? These are all your higher faculties, perception, will, imagination. As a child, we're taught to draw on the canvas of our mind anything that comes to our imagination. We start to play as children. But guess what? As we get older, we tend to stop imagining. Why? We tend to stop dreaming. Why? Suppose I were to tell you you could have $1 million tomorrow. You'd say, Mark, that's unrealistic. Why is it? If I were to say to
stop
you,
dreaming.
If I were to say to you, Mr. Morgan, that you could earn as much money as you desire, you'd say, Mark, how do you do that? That's impossible. Well, no, it's not. It really depends on
I would say,
your
show me how.
self-image. Exactly. That's the key thing. It's not about let me put it this way. And I heard this from Robert Kiyosaki. He said his poor dad would say, I can't afford that. But his rich dad, Morgan, would say, how can we afford that? Two different statements. So your self-image is really in your subconscious mind. This is what you're pouring into yourself every single day. Now, I want to recommend 2 books that you could write down, and I would love to add this in the University of West Indies library if it's not already there. It's called Psycho-Cybernetics. Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. He's actually a cosmetic surgeon. And he realized really early that when he did a cosmetic surgery on someone, let's say, for instance, they had something that was changing their self-image that they did not like about themselves. But when he actually removed that scar, he noticed that there was not a change in the appearance, there was a change in their image. Their behavior of how they actually viewed themselves changed. Sometimes there was no change. So you have 2 images now, the one that comes from you at the mirror, and you also have the one that comes from you from inside. Now, there's another phenomenal book that I want you to add to your library there. It's called Ask, a phenomenal book. We should never be reluctant to ask something. Now, I want to take you right back to the paradigm shift again, and then Leighton would dive right into the next slide. I want to spend a little bit more time on this. Think about, as a child, we tell our children not to talk to strangers.
Mm-hmm.
Yet still, if you're going to become successful in life, it will depend on you to talk to strangers. Because in order for you to create real wealth, it is going to require a community of people, many of whom you do not know. Right? So if we're telling our children not to talk to strangers, yet still is in talking to people who you do not know that will actually bring you things, asking questions, and this book touches on it. It's really powerful. Ask and you shall receive. That's what we learn from the good book. Ask and you shall receive, but we're telling our children not to ask, not to talk to strangers. Now, there is a discrepancy there. There is a paradigm shift that has to happen so that we can actually start to manifest the things that we really and truly desire and want in life. Leighton?
Absolutely, Mark. Mark, so profound. And so while we engage our audience, Mark, we want to kind of dive into where we are really coming from. Because we are educators and we understand the beauty of education. But when you look at the screen, it's 97% versus 3%. Now, let me just speak about who are the 3%. We're talking about the Azan and the Issas and those people that would have had and laid out generational wealth for their families for generations and generations to come. But when we look on the other side, we see the Morgans and the Aarons and the Clarys and all those.
Don't call my name there.
Right?
Don't call my
name. About the people, Mark, that was born and were given education, right, to lead us into a place where we offer service and continue the generational poverty cycle, right, until we can become cognizant that we need to see how best we can soften that 97%. So we have a big work, we have a big ask to do in order to educate, in order to move from just simple education to financial literacy, where we can have our people understanding the importance of building wealth, building the generational wealth. So when we are having this conversation today, Mr. Heron, I know you would have wanted us to come and say, we have an investment that speaks to this. But the reality of it, Mr. Heron, is if I take $1 million to you today and you don't understand the financial literate part of it, you're going to lose $1 million and can't get it back. So we want to be able to build that, to build that around you. And you mentioned it earlier, knowledge is the key. And we say knowledge is the new money.
I want to interject there really quickly, Leighton, on what you just said. about, you know, if we were to give you $1 million, and it goes back to what I said to you, your income is in direct correlation with your personal development. If you can't manage the little that you already have, how are we going to expect to be blessed with more? If we can't manage that which we already have, how can we come and ask for more? We must be able to manage the little before we can be blessed with the lot. You see, the 97%, ladies and gentlemen, the 97% is not by accident. It is by design. See, in 1917, they decided that they were going to create public school system to educate people because there were a lack of workers for factories. And so they went on a mission and they succeeded. They taught us exactly how to go to school, how to get an awesome education, to then graduate and become something where we're going to now tie our time to money. Again, a paradigm needs to be shifted because now we're exchanging time for money as an employee. Are you going to be able, ladies and gentlemen, to work for 40 years, retire at the age of 65, and live the life that you so desire, doing what you're currently doing? I might suggest to you that a lot of times Leighton and I are sitting across from the table, and majority, the 97% of us, cannot live the type of life we want in retirement. And that's simply because the 3%, ladies and gentlemen, understand something that the 97% actually don't. And we are not talking about money again. Money is simply a byproduct. We're talking about how do you become more valuable to the marketplace. Not being a worker only. There's nothing wrong with having a job, but there's something wrong, ladies and gentlemen, with only having a job. What are your talents? What are your gifts? What have you been bestowed with that you can use to create value for somebody else's life? Are you focusing on making somebody else's life better than you are focused on the job? Because when you do that, that's when the money starts to flow. I hand it right back over to you, Leighton.
And may I just quickly interject, Mark, and you can write this down. Job means just over broke.
I would not say. Leighton, we stopped using that long time ago. Why you
yes,
say
Mark. Yes. Okay, cool.
So if you think knowledge is expensive, guys, if you think knowledge is expensive, try ignorance. If you think knowledge is expensive, try ignorance. We don't know it all, but what we do know is financial literacy. What we do know is how to educate you in the field of creating more money and creating generational wealth. How do we do that? Well, we can't do that just as an employee. We have to learn how to transition into becoming self-employed, having your own job. Now, I'm not telling anyone to get up and walk away from their jobs right now. But what I am saying is in a financial crisis, what we need to understand is how to become what? More valuable to the marketplace and bring forth something, bring forth fruit so that you can feed other people. So what gifts and talents do you bring so you can become self-employed? And then we've also learned from Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that's another book for the libraries, how to move from being self-employed to being a business owner. Now, a business owner is where you have systems, and we're going to touch on systems later, but how to have a system in place that's working for you. And then we're going to shift from being a business owner to being an investor. Now, this is where most people like to be, because this is where you're no longer exchanging time for money, but instead, Leighton, we're exchanging money for more money. Money is actually working for you harder than you're working for money. This is where we need to get our nation today. This is where we need to be focusing on. We need to be focusing on becoming more investors and becoming more business owners and becoming more self-employed. Now, Leighton Morgan, I want you to touch on another idea for me.
Yes. Well, I suppose based on what Nikkisha would have given, based on what we have done so far, we would have put enough ideas out there for us, for our audience to act on. But I just want to say quickly though, that all ideas have a shelf life. All ideas have a shelf life. And so if we don't act on them, if we don't start to change today, if we don't start with a budget, as Nikkisha mentioned today, what is going to happen is that we are going to start thinking about, I wonder if we should really do this. I wonder if we should really do that. And then January 1 comes, February 1 comes, March 1 comes, and we are in the same place as we start. So we must get up, as my good friend and coach Dave Ramsey would say. If you don't want to change, then the world is going to change, leave you. All right. And so we have to understand that we have to learn, unlearn, and relearn. Let me tell you a story, because they said ideas tell, and stories sell. And so Mark and I, in December 2019, went to the police division in St. Catherine North. Yes, way up in the hills, to do a presentation to some graduating policemen. All right. I was joined at the head table by deputy superintendent of police. And while we were there, he said, I know you from somewhere. I said, where you know me from again? Oh yes, he knew me from my alma mater, Kingston Technical High School. And of course, after the presentation, we had a discussion. He said to me, but he's also in real estate, and he dabbles in the stock market from time to time. And of course, he was giving Mark and I, what is the next best stock to buy. He said to me, Leighton, buy, I don't remember the name of the stock right now. It will come back to me pretty soon. Siboney, buy Siboney, right? No, that was December. Of course, you and I know that COVID started in Japan round about December, heading into January, and of course in Jamaica in March, all right? So of course we were unstable within that time, something heading our way. I did nothing about the stock, but I was telling some of my friends about it, buy Siboney. At the time, Siboney wasn't traded for 11 cents. But I can tell you, after COVID, during COVID, I got a sizable sum of monies, and I decided I was going to buy Siboney. I called my stockbroker and I said to her, I have some monies, I'm going to buy Siboney stock. She said to me, go online to buy it. Now, if you know me, I am not a techie at all. I depend on Mark to do all of my tech events. So the minute she said that, I was just turned off. I did not buy the stock. And you know what happened? Siboney went up 1,600%. I would have made almost $8 million on my investment. All right? So I'm just saying to you guys, ideas have a shelf life. Jump on it once you hear it. It's better to fail and fail forward. It's best to fail and fail forward. Learn something.
Very well said, Mr. It was Eric Hoffer who once said, in times of change, the learners will inherit the earth, while the learned will find themselves beautifully prepared for a world that's just no longer in existence. And that's exactly what's going to be happening if we don't get on that board of that arrow that's heading towards change. Also, Alfred Adler, he also said this: I am grateful for the idea that has used me. I am grateful for the idea that has used me. I want you guys to understand that, again, going back to your paradigm and your self-image, do you know that everything in this life was created by a thought? Everything was created in the mind first. And so just to touch on what Leighton just said, why is it that we do not have the result that we desire? It keeps on rolling and rolling and rolling. And Mr. Heron, I want to tell you why we don't have those results. It takes repetition of a new idea for change to occur. Now I'm going to give you an example. It's not such a great example, But being the child that I was, I got into a lot of trouble, especially at school. And at school, they would have given you what to write down on the board or in your book. If you would have gotten lines, right? You'd have been asked to write lines 100 times. But listen, it might be funny, but there is a psychological impact that's happening right there. When you write that out, it's imprinting it in your mind through repetition. And not only are you saying it, you're writing it. Now, you and I both know how powerful things are when you write them down. How about you write down, I'm so happy and grateful now that I have earned 5 figures by December the 31st, 2021. How about you write that down like a line 50 times? Do you think you'll start to believe it? Maybe not at first, but you'll start to think it. And once you think it, it then starts, you have to attach a feeling to that. How would you feel, Leighton, if by the end of December, you can look in your bank account and see that $6 million actually come into manifestation? How would that make you feel? You tie your feeling to it, because now that you tie your feeling to it, Mr. Heron, you can now get your actions in alignment. You're going to go to work. You're going to start to understand self. You're going to start to look into what it is within you that you can utilize to, again, bring value to the marketplace. You're going to go to work, right? So I want to really help you understand now that this conversation is not about money. It's about how you look at things so that the way you look at things will change. The result won't last unless you have a change in your self-image. I'll give it to you like this before we move on. Someone who wants to lose weight. Now, I've wanted to lose weight for a long time. And so I started to work out and work out and work out. And somebody said, look, if you work out, you'll lose weight. Well, I did work out and I lost weight. But guess what? I put back on weight again. Why did that happen? Because the results weren't in alignment with my self-image. Was I seeing myself? I'll show you this. This might not be appropriate, but I'll show you this. This is right in front of me. This is what I used to look at 18. I used to look like this at 18. So what I'm doing now is I'm able to see this every day. This is now changing my mindset. It's changing my self-image of myself right now. That is what is going to make the result last, because my self-image has changed. It's not about the workout. It's not about the money. It's your self-image. So Leighton, you used to always say something to me whenever you saw me down and out. Yes. You'd always come to me and say something, and I never forgot it, and I wrote it down.
Absolutely. And this is a fact, and this is from Zig Ziglar. I think I stand corrected. But you don't have to be great to start Nikkisha, but you have to start to be great. And these are facts, right? I mean, I laugh at myself sometimes because I find, you know, I sometimes I'm frightened by my growth and the kind of people that I lead, and sometimes the clients that I have. Because, you know, I used to sell a star in Manapa, but I had to start from somewhere. Those were my foundations. I used to wrap. I used to steal into the supermarket and wrap a bag and rush out back because the supervisor used to run me out. You know what I mean? Until I get my permanent work in the supermarket, led by a friend of mine. You know, and today when I sit down with my clients, I advise them on long-term planning. Right? I didn't even know about those things, but I had to grow. I had to start. You know, when I started doing retirement planning, I failed the exam twice. My fellow student looked at me and said, you are too delinquent. I am going to ensure that you pass your exam. And today I stand in front of the masses giving advice about retirement planning. Fail forward. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great.
And I thank you, Leighton, for reiterating that and really putting it down because it really made a difference in my life. I understood from that, Leighton, that you don't have to, I put it to you like this: done
Yes.
is better than perfect.
Of course.
Because we're going to sit
Yes.
down there thinking and thinking and thinking,
Yes.
and I can tell you this, you're going to procrastinate. You're going to be putting it
Yes.
off and putting it off. No, you have to start today.
Absolutely.
And
So
what
we're like that.
exactly?
We are naturally like that.
We're naturally like that. And one of the things that we want to hit home as we wrap this up, because I know this is a short meeting, we could go into this for days. There's so much we could share with you about this. Maybe you might have to book us again, Mr. Heron, but there are a lot of things that we can share with you that can transform the way you look at your life, the way you look at your wealth. And the one thing that I learned from our mentor, Magdalena Cooper, the news, Jamaica's #1 when it comes on to retirement planning, is this: what's the first word in wealth? Leighton, you cannot answer.
What's the first word? What's the first word in wealth, Mr. Aaron?
And anybody else anybody else that's on the conversation, of course, you can put it in the
Beautiful. I
chat.
see Sandra Stubbs. Yes, Sandra very much
Sandra
into
got
it.
it.
Yes,
Okay.
the first word in wealth is we.
All
I
right, so
actually-
Sandra got it. Great.
I actually look past we.
Well, it's very important that
what
we
the first
highlight
word in wealth?
It's very important that
Yes,
we
sir.
highlight this, because wealth is not an individualistic thing, ladies and gentlemen. It is a communal thing. It is a community thing. It is several generations to come thing. Wealth has to do with a lot of different individuals coming together. It's a network. I'm sure you've heard the term, your network is your net worth. That's how you create wealth.
Absolutely.
You create wealth by touching multiple different lives and being of value to other people. And that's how we truly create wealth. So as we dive into this crisis that we have, I want us to really change our self-image and think about how can we become more valuable? What skills do I actually have and possess right now that I can monetize? You see, I'm into the digital world. And when I'm investing in digital currencies like foreign exchange market or cryptocurrency, I'm not doing it alone. I'm doing it with a team of individuals where we're all able to make money together. We're online. We're in the comfort of our homes. So even if we are being quarantined, because of the technology we have today, we are still able to make money. And I can tell you this, it's not going to be the money that the bank is going to give you after the entire year is through. But it's going to be daily growth. But you can only do that if you don't have a poor mentality. And what does poor stand for, Leighton?
Poor is an acronym. And the acronym is passing over opportunities repeatedly. Passing over opportunities repeatedly. And we do that. We do that. We really do that. I mean, sometimes I can tell you, just by not educating myself as far as the computers are concerned, as far as the technology is concerned, I missed $8 million.
Yeah.
Right? And these are some opportunities that we miss all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We can do it. We can change our outlook. We can change our mindset. And so if we are weak in an area, we need to make the effort. If it is important to us in any way, if it is important to us, we must stop passing over these opportunities repeatedly, because that is going to keep us poor.
You know,
right, Mr. Aaron?
There are three types of people. There are three types of people that we come across in this business. You come across the people who make things happen.
Yes, the few that make things happen.
You come across the people who watch what happens.
The majority that watch things happen.
And then you come across the people who simply just, they wonder what happened.
The most.
So, ladies and gentlemen.
Don't give a
So ladies and gentlemen.
Go ahead, Mark. Go ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, what we want to suggest to you today, we've told you the truth today. People don't typically fail in life because of a lie that was told to them. People typically fail in life because of a truth that was told to them that they just chose not to believe. And we've told you the truth today. We want you to be rich. And rich really stands for residual income creating happiness. How do you position and align yourself so you can start to create residual income? Not income that you're working for by exchanging your time for money, but instead, how can you create residual income for yourself, and not just for yourself, might I add, but for your generations to come? A good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what we need to be focusing on. But we can only do that if we put systems in place. Now, Randolph Mclean, one of our managers and my good friend, Leighton, Leighton, you can talk about this real quick.
Yeah, man. Him say, why this gentleman was so profound and left our indelible mark on myself and other people, because he would say, man no succeed, systems succeed. And so naturally we get up on one part of the bed every morning, Mr. Heron. That's all. 95% of the time we get up on one side of the bed. If we get up on the 5%, we recognize that we're doing it. And so therefore, we have to put systems in place in order to make sure that we are doing the things that we want to do and do them all the time. Because what is said, winners need discipline, not motivation. Winners need discipline. All right. So if it means anything to us, we must put the discipline in place. We must
have to put that system in place. And that system stands for save yourself time, energy, and money. So what is financial wellness really, as we wrap this up, is the balance between having a healthy state of well-being today while preparing financially for the future tomorrow. And financial wellness exists when a family or person can live worry-free the way they want to live as long as they live. And ladies and gentlemen, we would just like to thank you for your time. We want to thank you for, the only thing you had to pay for this today is your attention. And we thank you for that. Leighton Morgan, I hand the call right back over to you in closing.
Yes, and Mark, I must tell you, it was a great pleasure sharing the stage with you, and of course Nikkisha, and of course our lovely audience. We are going to be taking some questions, but I think we did a good job. That there's not going to be any more questions. So what do you think, Mr. Heron?
Well, I never normally encourage persons to pat themselves on the back. I would prefer for someone else to do that. But I think you have hit the nail right on the head. You have done an awesome job in sharing. And I am looking at the chat and I'm seeing it's just alive. So many biblical scriptures that it can relate to, and I just stopped taking notes, man. Too many quotations, and it's just a very profound presentation, But I am going to leave it for our viewers to comment on. And then, as you rightly say, I don't think they will have too many questions because it has been absolutely clear in a very simple way. So let me invite our viewers to the questions and answer segment that is now open. So feel free to raise your hand or to unmute your mic and to ask your question to this very thought-provocative presentation. And so, Mr. Morgan, it seems like you were right. You were right. There will be no need for
that was
any
deliberate.
question. for any question, is this
Yes.
so you have taken the university to school? Huh? You have lectured
Well,
us on this topic here, because one of the things that is interesting is that here at the library, right, we do promote
yes, sir.
healthy thinking, positive thinking. It all starts with the mind. Just as you have mentioned, it all starts from a thought, right? But
Yes.
I don't think we have ever tried to tie that same thought or behavior to thinking financially, thinking about wealth. We might say, okay, we have an attitude that needs to be changed, and we are aware of that attitude, and we tell ourselves that we need to change that kind of attitude. We might be coming to work late, and we say, okay, well, I need to start coming to work early, and we make an attempt to change that behavior. But when it comes on to wealth, money, finances, Lord God, man, I have no more money. Man, I have no money. But
Yes.
but look at how simple you have put it. Just change your mindset. Miss Clary said
Yes.
earlier, pay yourself first. Consider it as a bill.
Yes.
Right? And now
Yes.
here you are coming up from the roots, selling style, and now here you are giving us advice on wealth management. There are so many different things that Mr. Blake could have been doing right now, navigating the skies, but he took the time out to educate us, and for that we are truly grateful. We are truly grateful. It's just mind-boggling.
You know, Mr. Heron, you
Yes,
said
sir.
it. The attitude. You know, I'm reading a book by Miles Monroe, Capture the Spirit of Leadership, right? And we were all born from the creation technology theory that there is a more powerful being than us, which is God, right? And I can tell you, it is said that your attitude is you, and you are your attitude. Your attitude can make you ugly, and your attitude can make you absolutely beautiful. And so it's the attitude that you attract that's going to determine the kind of people that you attract. Yes? Good? So
Totally agree.
If you can take that with you, and the mindset change, already you can start moving into a different sphere. I had to do it. I mean, I can tell you about times when I get paid, and before you know it, there was too much month at the end of the money. Yes, and we had to do something, always be thinking. But as I mentioned to you earlier, when I started to do the industry courses, right? I was selling insurance, and then I realized that I wanted to do something else. So I had to go back and learn before I started to earn. So you learn first, take up the L, and then you earn.
And that's what life is all about, learning, right?
Absolutely.
And as you said, everything we do is about retraining of the mind. Retraining of the mind. You know, you have spoken about a very interesting thing, you know, about ideas that has an expiry date. Listen, missing opportunities because you were afraid to take that first step.
Absolutely. Yes.
Wow.
And that first step is faith in action.
Yeah. Let me try and put this in perspective for a second, because I know we're lost for time, and I hope our viewers don't mind. Let me put this in perception a bit, because what you're suggesting to me, yes, is that I have my issues about managing my finances, and there is absolutely no money for me. And what you have done is to suggest to me that forget about the money. Forget about the money. Let's start by thinking, What is it that you want? Then let's try and see, how can we get there? What are the sacrifices that we will have to make and implement to get there?
Powerful, powerful.
So we want to get rich. We want to be wealthy, right?
Yes.
But at the same time, don't think about the money. Let's start by changing the mind.
The mind.
The mind.
The mind. Mr. Heron, can I boast a little bit?
Sure.
I just want to boast a little bit. And, you know, again, I said I was born to I'm in an office now that was bigger than the house that I lived in. With my grand aunt, my brother, and my sister and myself. And so when we were going to bed, my grand aunt had to go first, then my sister slot in, then my brother, and then me. 4 of us in a small, maybe 8 by 8. All right?
Yes.
Good. And I didn't even dream of driving. But today, my bank called me and said that I was authorized, that's a word, for approved for a brand new 2021 X6. That's where I'm coming from.
Lynn, don't take it.
No, let me again, you know, I'm going to, because I think we can go on forever here. So again, I'm going to invite our viewers to ask any questions or comment that they so desire, because we are wrapping up right about now, and this is a very interesting presentation and very thought-provocative, to say the least. And we have three experts here with us. Don't ask me, because I'm going to tell you based on what I know, though it might be right, but it might not be sufficient to get you where you need to be. So I'm going to encourage us, please, to take advantage of the expertise that we have here.
My. Good morning, team. I am so impressed. I'm just beaming. I'm just smiling from ear to ear. I mean, from the first presenter to the very Twin Towers. I'm impressed because what they have spoken about is what we have been experiencing and seeing and not paying much attention to, you know. And when they spoke about knowledge being the new money, right away that scripture from Revelation came to mind, and I actually found it in a prayer book actually. Think and grow rich, right? I mean, because the thing is, we see that all right, just to even comment briefly on that scripture, it's talking about linen and all those fine garments that are being for sale in the marketplace, right? And we're seeing people just passing it by. Why? Because people are more interested these days in intellectual property. We're paying more money for conferences, knowledge on how to get rich, not so much spending on garments, fine clothing. You understand? And even when you check out some of our rich people, look at how they dress. You have more bossy pores than rich people, because we some of us who are poor-minded, right? And let me take myself out of it. Some persons who are poor-minded, they think they need to wear their bank accounts just to prove to the rich people that I can wear what you have. But the rich people is not interested in that. They're more interested in how they make money work for them. And that is what we were hearing today with this team. I am so impressed. Miles Monroe, all those other authors that you mentioned, I'm telling you, that is where our money is going these days. We're spending on intellectual property than the clothing that make us look rich. We're not spending $60,000 just to make your head turn. We're trying to increase our value. so that we can increase our money market, we said. But boy, I'm just elated, really. Sir Aaron, you hit the jackpot. I was there wondering, where did you get this team from? Did you hear them before? Oh my God. Thank you, team, for coming. I am really elated that I was a part of this webinar today.
Thank you for being here. And that's what we try to promote here at the UWMONA Library, health and wellness, because it's not about physical being healthy, the mind as well.
Yes.
The mind as well has to be healthy. And then from that comes wealth. From that comes wealth. It is just remarkable. I'm sorry to say that, you know, it has to come to an end, but definitely I am foreseeing a good partnership going forward with our, what I say, partners now, right? Sajikura and JM, because we definitely need more encouragement, more advice, and sometimes it is also good to hear it from someone else, and it will become more applicable when you hear from the experts. And so I really and truly would just like to thank you very much for being here and for presenting with us. And I'm still looking in the chat to see if there will be one question, just to prove you wrong, Mr. Morgan. If there will be just one question, and I'm still not seeing any. So, Mr. Blake, you have navigated us quite well, and Ms. Clary, I thank you very much. You know, I think Dr. Clara had left earlier. She asked for apologies because she has another engagement that she has to attend to, you know. So, Miss Bernadette, are you here with us to bring to us our vote of thanks? Let me check. All right, so I will then just like to say a big thank you, first and foremost, to Ms. Clary for sharing with us, you know, investment, saving, strategizing, and also to pay yourself. Because I'm going to classify it now as a bill, as you've said. I need to pay myself first in order to put myself in a better financial position. And that will be my way of thinking going forward. Thank you very much for sharing with us today. You know, it has been very, very interesting to say the least. And also, I am now going to what? Mr. Blake. Mr. Blake, you came from the sky and you have swept my audience off their feet, and you have taken them to newer heights. And sir, God said, let there be light from the very thought, and there was light. And Mr. Blake said, get knowledge, educate yourself, change your thought, and then you shall inherit what you so desire. How else can it be said? Can't get any more, it can't get better than that. You know, and so we really and truly would like to tell you thanks again for being here. Mr. Simpleton, Mr. Simpleton. No, I tell you, look, people, the man said he started out by selling star. Because what I find with this, you know, is that oftentimes we tend to look down on where we started. We look down on others. But with the right mentality, again, the sky is the limit. There are no stones that are left unturned if we want to achieve something. We just need to put pen to paper, put the markers on the wall so that it will be in front of us each and every time to remind us of where we need to be, where we want to go, how are we going to get there. And to be honest with you, I really do not feel like this has been a talk about finances. I'm seeing here where this presentation really is about uplifting oneself. It's about taking your inner being to transform it into something else greater. And we cannot achieve that until we start where? In the mind. In the mind. So what are we going to do now with this knowledge? How long are we going to sit and complain about, I do not have enough money to do what I need to do? And my question to you is, are you going to make the necessary change to achieve what you need? To apply the different strategies to get to where you want? Let us think about it. Because we have just navigated through financial crisis. And the three presenters has shown you that there is hope. There is hope. Again, back to where we started. Mary C. Cole, after the Kremlin War, she lost everything. She was almost 50. She lost every single thing. The only thing she had in her possession was 4 medals that she got as an award for her service. But she said, the work is not yet done. It's an uphill climb, but I will get there. And so I will then turn over to the presenters to give them the chance to leave with us a final word, and we will take a wrap. Thank you once again, Mr. Morgan, Mr. Blake, Ms. Clary, and to the wonderful viewers who for the first time has left stunted. No questions, mind-boggling. Any final words from our presenters?
Well, thanks for having me, Mr. Heron and team. It was a pleasure. I've also learned from the other presenters, and I just want to say, let us keep hope and be positive and remain focused.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. I'm pleased to know that the information that we would have shared would have impacted you guys somehow. I always say, don't have a paralysis of analysis. Don't sit down spending a lot of time thinking about what you need to do. Think about how you're going to put things down on paper, because you have to decide. The very key thing here is decide. You have to make a decision. My mentor would always say, decide rhymes with suicide. Something has to die. And if it is not the old you or the old way of being, then it has to be your own paradigms. It has to be shifted. So decide what you want, write it down in the present, and remember that everything began as a fantasy. And like Mr. Heron said, in the beginning, there was the word. There was the word. It had to be spoken but it was a thought. And so if we think it and we speak it into being, you can absolutely manifest anything your heart so desires. We are a product of our 5 closest friends and the books that we read. Let's get ourselves in the company of like-minded individuals who are seeking the greater good. And let's read more books that can actually propel us into the future to set our finances the way we want and to set our mind exactly the way we want. And with that being said, thank you again so much for having me. Mr. Morgan, I turn it over to you.
Mark Blake, Nikkisha Clary, Mr. Tamar Aaron, your audience. I'm blown away too, and I'm sure I'm blown away. But I just want to say that if you believe you can do it, start a can plan. You can if you start a can plan. It must be done, and we must do it like Nike. But I just want to leave my final words with you is it is not going to happen overnight. So just be patient with yourself. Nothing in nature blooms all year. And so just be patient with yourself, learn a nugget by a nugget, and you will get there. Speak to yourself every day. Who am I? I am on a journey to be great. And greatness doesn't start with, it starts with G and ends with N-E-S-S. So you have to start the journey. Thank you very much. It was indeed a pleasure sharing.
Thank you very much. So my three takeaways, right, will be 1, pay yourself first. Pay yourself first, and everything else will manifest itself. Then it begins with the mind, a thought that can change the world. A simple thought. That's very powerful. And lastly, remember the acronym for CORE. Passing over opportunities repeatedly. Let me repeat that. Passing over opportunities repeatedly. What is stopping you today? What is stopping you today from achieving your goal? And having said that, I thank you once again for joining us and to stay in the long haul, because I know that the time has been far spent, but it has been a wonderful experience. And we thank you once more for being here and to have shared and to listen, and now, more importantly, to act upon those thoughts. Have yourself a wonderful and a safe and productive day. And thank you once more for being here with us at the UWI Library Health and Wellness webinar. We have something else coming, and I'll let you in on a little secret. We have something else coming. We have a promotion where we have highlighted persons who have triumphed over the pandemic, who has used the pandemic for good opportunities. And that will be released this month. And those stories that were shared with us are similar to what you have said in your presentation. The thought came to the person and they acted upon it. And I'm repeating that deliberately because I would like for the viewers to hear and for it to resonate. The thought came and they acted upon the thought. Don't let your ideas die. Act upon your thoughts. Thank you once again for being here. Greatly appreciated.
Thanks, Mr. You're welcome,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Heron.
Welcome, Mr. Heron, and thanks as well.
Thank you very much. Wow. I am a rich man. I am a very wealthy man, I would say. Right? You know, I thought that I was going to get some nice ideas, read and truly to just tell me, how to put aside some stuff and then just navigate and, get some there. But it really and truly is just an amazing journey, just listening to what was said. It really and truly, because even with your presentation, Ms. Clary, I now will have to make a conscious decision to pay myself first.
Sure.
I certainly must. Again, it comes back to the mind. I know, because
Exactly.
when I look at it, I do not see a way out. I do not see how it is that we are going to survive. But if we start to think about it, it will happen. And I've seen many times where persons have just simply jumped into action. Just like the eagle, perfect example. Their first flight, they were just pushed off the cliff. And they have to quickly adapt to that.
Yeah.
And immediately they took flight. Wonderful presentation here. My heart is filled with joy. Wonderful. You see, we are over, and yet still there. I don't see anyone leaving the room, which is really good. Which is really and truly good, and
Yeah.
they have stayed the long haul, and believe you me, this is something that the world needs to know and hear about. I 5, 50, 30, 20.
Yes.
50, 30, 20. The man from the streets.
Mr. Heron, may I just say quickly?
Sure.
May I just say quickly, Nikkisha, it was an absolute pleasure seeing you, and we're looking forward to do more of this with you. All right?
Together, yes. It was.
Yes. Yes.
I'm looking at the chat, and I'm seeing so many biblical scriptures being quoted.
Yes.
So many biblical scriptures being quoted, at a financial webinar. You see that? Oh boy, this is just fantastic. This is fantastic.